What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon team announcements coming out for round 4 of the Six Nations first game up. Biggest game of the weekend, maybe? Oh man, this is the one I'm personally really looking forward to the most. Ireland going up against France. Going to be a really tough one to call this one because got some big team announcements coming up. We're going to have a run through all the teams, go over our thoughts on some of the picks, some good picks, some changes made along the way, and finally, of course, giving a score prediction, which even now, I don't know which way I'm going to go with this one, so stick around till the end to be able to see what I'm going to predict. This one I could see really going either way, and that's a great thing in the Six Nations where you've got absolutely no idea how this one's going to go. We'll start out then with the home team of Ireland. I've got a different graphic for Ireland because the Six Nations have not put out their graphic for it, yet the URC have. So the URC are better at putting up the team announcements for the Six Nations than Six Nations. So we're going to go with this one for now. It's a stacked old Leinster side, as I've seen so many people in the comment sections and in the Twitter pages and the graphic pages saying the sheer impact of the Leinster side in this Ireland team. But changes have come in for this squad, and I would say bolstered from the squad that went up to play Wales last week, where they did get the win. The win came in, I can't remember how many points it was now off the top of my head. It was 9 points, which was an underwhelming overall scoreline. But it was one of those games where Wales, change of coaches, change of players, ripping up the playbook. You don't necessarily know what you're going to come up against. There was a lot of changes coming in for the Ireland team as well. But I think got called out a little bit and did enough to be able to sort themselves out and go on to win that game. And it's something Ireland are capable of doing, is just hunkering down and understanding what you need to do to just make sure you go on to win the game, even if you don't need to do crazy, flashy stuff. It's get the win, at all costs. But I think the Wales team caught them off guard a little bit. And a couple of those lessons need to be learned going into this one, because with Wales at the minute, you can still get away with making those mistakes a little bit and stuff. But against like France will probably punish you a lot more. So, got to have a couple of changes coming in here. So starting out in the front row, Andrew Border, Dan Sheehan and Finlay Beelum, which is a solid front row. But last week, scrum time was becoming an issue for them. There was a couple of calls. Finlay Beelum's come in now because Clarkson started last week for them. But the scrum, man, they were struggling to really get a foothold in that scrum. Some of the Wales props really sort of getting involved and causing penalties. That disrupts a huge amount of the game for this Ireland squad. And France have got a big old pack when it comes to the scrum time. So that'll be an interesting battle to see how those guys get on. Lock department, Joe McCarthy going in alongside of Ty Byrne. Lock department, very important against France. They have a lot of jumpers in the line out too to be able to just take that ball. Driving maul is something France also, enjoy going for. So being able to get a man in the air and disrupt any sort of 5-meter mauls and stuff is going to be all important versus this France team, because players like Malvaca and Julian Marchand, when they come in that second half, they do look for that driving maul. Even if they didn't get them actually last week against Italy, they only got one, I think, against Italy last week. But they will go for it. It's certainly a big option for them. Back row, Peter O'Mahony goes in the number 6 shirt. Josh van der Fleer in at 7, and Caelan Doris returns to the squad for his 50th cap for Caelan Doris. I thought he was on way more. It feels like Caelan Doris has been in this squad forever, right? But only 50 caps for him. But that's a big benchmark for him to be able to say, and he's getting back in there for the captaincy. It's still a solid back row. It's going to be a big old battle for the back rows. I think back rows, I'm still giving the advantage to the Irish team. We haven't looked at the France team yet, but I feel like Francois Cross and Paul Boudahon have had a bit more roller coaster. They have some really good games. Some other games I feel like they've been a little bit underwhelming. I feel like there's a bit more consistency in the Peter O'Mahony, Josh van der Fleer, Caelan Doris back row of Ireland. Halfback partnership, James Gibson Park going in alongside Sam Prendergast, who last week, I'm trying to think about the kick injuries last week. I think he missed a couple of kicks, right? So, but the general play around the park from Sam Prendergast, I'm really enjoying. It's so interesting to see that, Jack Crowley's just not got in the Six Nations. He's just sat on the bench and he comes on, and I think he does well when he comes on from the bench as well. But Sam Prendergast, just the way he's sort of running the game for around the park, just organising the players and sorting themselves out, I think is still very good at the minute. And James Gibson Park is really fighting to be up there for top end scrum half in the world. It must be very frustrating when you have someone like James Gibson Park, who I think is extremely good as a scrum half, and yet you have Antoine Dupont in the world. So you don't get to maybe hit that peak of like best scrum half in the world. I do think James Gibbs-White is brilliant. But yeah, Antoine Dupont kind of ruins it for him by just playing in the same shirt as him. Centre partnership then. Bundyaki going alongside Robbie Henshaw. Gary Ringrose with his red card last week. Got his verdict came through, and he'll be missing the rest of the Six Nations as well, as missing one of the Leinster games for them as well. So Bundyaki and Robbie Henshaw is probably what we're seeing for the remaining 2 games of this Six Nations, if they have a bit of a change there. I think is it Osborne, who can also move into centre if you need him to. But I imagine this will be the 12-13 for the rest of the season. And to be honest, Gary Ringrose, the one time I picked him in the fantasies is the game he gets a red card, and he was a little bit underwhelming. Bundyaki came on and just fought for sheer life in that Wales game, and did extremely well to come on. A lot of more talking points around the 20-minute red card and how much does it impact the game. But Bundyaki was a big player to come on for them last week. Back 3: James Lowe, Jamie Osborne moving into 14, and Hugo Keenan in at fullback. Now my understanding is that Mac Hansen is actually out with an injury, so Jamie Osborne coming in at the 14. I don't know about Calvin Ash. Calvin Ash is still out. But I think the reason for this is when we get on to talk about the bench. The bench is a 6-2. And with that comes, you've got to find that versatility somewhere else. Putting Jamie Osborne in at 14, I think he can play 14. I can't think of him playing, right wing for the Irish squad. But I believe he is more than capable of doing any of the back 3 positions. But also can do centre, which is going to be important. It might be that Jamie Osborne doesn't actually see as much of the ball this game as, he may have done if he was playing fullback or so. But the reason being they'll try and avoid his injury in case they need that swap to come in at centre. He can move into centre as well, or to fullback as well, can also go in there. So he's probably a good one to have on the pitch. I think he may have been a good one to have had on the bench as like a super sub, as sort of like what you have like with England with Elliot Daly, can come on and cover all those different positions. But to have him starting just frees you up to have your scrum half and your fly half on the bench in Conor Murray and Jack Crowley. So I don't think it's a bad move, really. And then your replacements: Rob Herring, Cian Healy, and Thomas Clarkson coming on there as your replacement. For Cian Healy's really not getting a look in, is he, in the Six Nations? Andrew Porter does just play that full 80. He's got to wait a very, very long time. I would like to see Cian Healy come on. He's a veteran, a lot of experience. It's his final Six Nations. Well, I'm sure he was one of the players that announced his retirement as well after this Six Nations. Get him on, right? Give him a little bit. Give him 10 minutes at the end. Andrew Porter doesn't need to play the entire game. Give him some time on the field. And then the rest of the placement forwards alongside them: James Ryan, Jack Conan, and Ryan Baird to come on in that second half. And Jack Conan, who I think has been impressive. Surprised I actually picked up a bit of an injury right last week, and I was like, oh man, that's going to be a big blow for him if he has to stay off for the rest of the season. But he's back in for the squad, probably looking to come on. I'm guessing they're looking at him for 6 for Pete O'Mahony, but you also got Ryan Baird, who can play back row or can also go into lock if you want him to. So there's decent coverage there for your 6-2, and it's probably the right move because France, as we've seen over the Six Nations, they've loaded up on the forward pack, and it's become, even though the backs are some of the biggest scorers probably in this tournament, the forward pack's doing a lot of work, so being able to try and push back against that France forward pack is going to be all important. 6-2 is probably the right way to go, but your backs are going to be tested against the French backs because they have been very, very good over the course of this Six Nations so far. Talking about them, France last week, 73-24 versus Italy. A much, much bigger score than I was expecting. I thought they would score quite a few points against Italy. I really thought they'd have a good shot at it. 73 on the board is a lot. And I'm very, very surprised it went that far out. They really wanted to put a bit of a statement down for this game. Now, last week they loaded up on the forwards. They've got that, the 7-1, all the forwards are coming on. You expect the forwards to be really holding down the game. And yet, interestingly, the French backs are the ones really carving up the teams. And it's so interesting to see. If you go 7-1, you're loading up. The backs might not even really get that much of a touch of the ball because the forward pack is where you've got the longevity. Your fatigue's able to keep up with it because you just chuck basically an entire new scrum on. You'd be expecting the ball to stay within the forward pack for majority of that game. But the French backs really ran away with it last week, and that is something Ireland will have to keep an eye on because even with a 7-1 split, this France team is able to still play very, very wide and go through the backs and really don't seem to fear an injury in these, key positions and what's going to happen to it. So, very, very interested to see what's going to happen in this game as we talk about the squad then. So, Jean-Baptiste Gros, Pietro Mavaca and Antonio going in for that front row. This has been a sort of the starting front row because Cyril Bay is very, very good, but Jean-Baptiste Gros has done very, very well this Six Nations. Thibaut Flamand returns alongside of Guillard in the 4-5 department. I'm looking forward to see a bit more from Thibaut Flamand. Very, very fast forward player. If he's able to break the line, you've got to have someone rapid on the end of him because he's got a great turn of pace for a big man. Back row, Francois Cross going in alongside of Paul Boudehon and Gregory Aldrit. Boudehon managed to get his try last week. He's one of those ones who sits sort of on the edge of being able to get a try basically every game. But he's had a couple of games where he just hasn't quite managed it, and therefore his overall performance feels like, he's actually not quite got it as involved in this game. But Greg Aldrit has been absolutely superb once again throughout the Six Nations. I think he's had another good Six Nations for him. Halfback partnership. The return of Romain Ntamack coming into the squad at 10 and Antoine Dupont at 9. I was a little bit 50-50 on this because, honestly, I think they've been doing okay. With Ramos at 10 and Leo Barre at 15, looked good last week. That back three looked dangerous. And I'm surprised they went back to it. And I think there's a few more talking points around this, but we'll get on for the rest of the team. Romain Ntamack back in after his red card from his game versus Wales, which was just a ridiculous tackle. It was always a red card. It was always going to be that, and such an unusual decision to do. No point in it at all. Cheap shot, and you get red carded for it. I think it was a valid red card for me. But back in the squad now, and does give them a little bit more to play around with here in the squad as well. So in the centre partnership, Mo Farner going back in alongside Barassi, who was able to make a little bit more of an impact last week. I'm still not entirely set on this French centre department. I'm not going to lie. I still think, if you had the Jonathan Danty and Gael Ficou, that's so massive as a centre partnership. Mo Farner and Barassi still don't feel like they've locked that centre department down for me, but they're doing enough to be able to get the ball out wide and give those back three some time on the ball. And then in the back three, Louis Bielbiaré goes in alongside of Damien Penaud, and Thomas Ramos returns to fullback and no doubt also maintaining his kicking duties as well. Leo Barre dropped from the squad. I'm not sure if he's had an injury or anything. As far as I'm aware, he's just not in this side, and I thought he had a superb game last week going up against Italy. On the bench then, 7-1 split for France. Yet again, they've really moved into this 7-1 department now. Julien Marchand, Cyril Bay, Aldeguerri, Miafo Auradou, and Jegu coming in alongside of Anthony Gelanche as well. Was Anthony Gelanche even in the game last week? I can't even remember off the top of my head now. Maxime Lucu is the only replacement back in the 23 squad, which is going to be, coming on for 9. Antoine Dupont spent some time last week also playing 10, which was able to work well for them because Ramos came off, Barry was staying in at 15, and then Antoine Dupont's also being utilised as the fly half there. So, really, really big versatility coming in there. The decision making to bring Romain Ntamack back on, I think for me, is his ability to cover 12. Because when I look at this squad, the area I see is like, who covers centre if something goes wrong? And it was, sort of thoughts about it last week as well, was how do they cover that centre department if there's going to be, big issues? They have other players like Galton and stuff on the bench. But bringing Romain Ntamack back into the squad, not only can he play 10, but he can also slide back to that 12 if you need. Mo Farner is probably being looked at for 12 or 13, as well as wing, to be honest. And then Ramos can be your cover at 10 if you need him to. Antoine Dupont's covering you 9, 10, and then Maxime comes on at 9. So really good coverage. I think that's probably one of the main reasons that Romain Ntamack comes back in the side, is that it just frees you up. You don't need to think that much about, having who's going to cover centre, someone coming on from the bench and stuff, because Romain Ntamack's already there for you. I think it's a good move, even though I personally have been really enjoying the Ramos 10 and Leo Barry at 15 move that they had last week. How do we see this game going? Genuinely, one of these games where you go into and go, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Looking over the sort of previous results, there's actually typically like a good score in this game. I've always thought of this game as being really, really tight. I think of it on 1 or 2 points either way, sort of. But over the last couple of years, 2024, it was 38-17 to Ireland. There's a good, 2 scores in there. 2023 was 32-19 to Ireland. That's a good score. In 2022, 30 points to 24 to France. There's basically a 1-score game in there. 2021, it was 15-13 to France. A much closer game, that one. 2020, 35-27 to France again, just outside that one-score range. 2019, 26-14 to Ireland. Again, it's like an 8-point buffer. So they actually do get out there, considering my head when I think of this game off the top of my head. I'm thinking, oh man, it's going to be 2 or 3 points either way. And I honestly don't know how I'm going to sort of decipher this one, because to me, I can either see this game being like a 3-point win for Ireland, or there's the other side of me that's thinking France actually might end up taking this game a bit away, and it might be like 12-13 to France, and actually a much bigger score on the other side if they can unleash the backs and really begin to punish Ireland. Playing in Ireland gives them a home advantage for this one as well. Irish scrum last week got pinged quite a few times at the scrum, and that sort of discipline, whereas, might not turn into that much for Wales, but, they did okay with it. France will probably punish those sort of, discrepancies in the scrum and turn that into penalties. There'll be 3 points. Ramos will be looking for the kicks. The driving maul is probably going to be a bit more dangerous from France as well. France, though, if they have a game like they did against England, where they just can't make those linkages back up and just can't get things working, it really begins to fall apart. And then all you need is a structured team to be able to just go through the phases and kick the 3 points and do what you need to win, which is what Ireland can do. And I think that's such a really fun sort of toss-up. I genuinely have no way to sort of call this one. At the minute, I'm still leaning towards Ireland on taking this one. I think overall, I would say I'm still leaning towards this Ireland front row. It's just how it gets on in the scrum department. Lock department wise, I'm still leaning towards Ireland. Back row, it's tight because I think Greg Aldrich's doing very well, but I still think I'm leaning towards Ireland there. Halfback partnership, I think that's really even. It's really tough to call. Centre partnership, I'm leaning towards Ireland. Back three, I'm leaning towards France, and then the bench is a 6-2 versus a 7-1. So it also could be a really big forwards-based game. I think if they let the French backs do their thing, Ireland are going to have a real tough game trying to shut them down. If they can just keep it within the forward pack and really keep it on, 6-2 versus 7-1 does nullify it out a little bit. And if you remember way back, you've got to cast your mind all the way back to the pool stages of the World Cup when an Ireland pack very similar to this had to take on the Springbok bench that did a very similar thing, and they were able to hold out that game. And these Ireland forwards can hold up against like a 7-1 bench and have that real big forward pack coming on. So I'm going to go towards Ireland. I still think I'm going to go low for this one. I'm not going to be looking at these sort of 10, 12-point games. I'm going to say Ireland by 3. For now, keep your eyes out for the Subaru, though. I might change that score as we get closer to the actual kickoff or something, and change it on my Subaru predictor. But for now, for the video, I'm going to go for an Ireland prediction by 3. Let me know down in the comment section, guys, what you guys think of the teams that have been announced, and also your own score predictions for this one. I'm really looking forward to this one. This one for me is probably game of the weekend. I'm going to be absolutely fixated on it. I hope you guys are all going to enjoy this one too. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.